According to reports by the EELC, there's less than 5% minority representation and only 2% black in certain parts of these jobs. We thought it was necessary to create a platform that would not only give students a leg in passing the exam, but also mentor them after they got into the job. It's a very powerful statement that you made. Can you take us back to the moment you recognized this gap and knew you had to do something about it?
Wow, thanks, Keegan. I guess I really recognize a disparity, if you will, in especially institutional financial services 20 years ago, maybe around 1993 to be exact. That's when I had my first municipal finance transaction, which was Victory Field here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I noticed that there were just very few minorities in investment banking or public finance. I noticed it a bit when I was a retail broker, but as I moved into the institutional space, it became more and more prevalent.
What was the moment where you thought I could do something about this?
Well, actually, I had thought about I could do something about it, Keegan, many, many years ago. But about 4 years ago, I had a little more time on my hands, and that's where I created the Indiana Project. And not knowing, Keegan, when I started, I really thought that I would help, I don't know, 2 or 3 students. I'm working, I can help 2 or 3 kids that have an interest in, public finance or Wall Street jobs or banking. So that's why I created it.
And then the Indiana Project is a 16-week program designed to help students pass the SIE exam while pairing them with mentorship once they are out of the industry. How did you land on that specific model, and what did you feel it could provide that other programs weren't offering?
What I really did, I'm going to go back to that original question. In our first cohort, we had about 25, 26 kids. And like I said, I was overwhelmed. I thought I would help, 2 or 3 kids. But what I did was I took a compilation of leadership programs that I had gone through. I'd gone through SKL, Stanley K. Lacey. My friend Dennis Bland runs CLD. I took some stuff from CLD. I took some things from Simon Youthbound. I just stole different parts of what I thought were successful organizations that impacted kids, and I compiled them into one. So the Indiana Project, is, for some students, for some cohort members, it may take 12 weeks before they're ready. For some, it may take 18 weeks. What I noticed, even going back, I was an elected official. I was elected to the Indianapolis Public School Board many, many years ago, and that's where I learned that students learn, not always at the same time. Even though they're in the same class, they have different learning styles. So what I found is even when I'm teaching the SIE, some kids got it, quicker than others. So to answer your point, I don't, some kid may pick it up in 12 weeks, some may pick it up in 18 weeks, and I don't test them, if you will, until we think they're ready to take the exam and be successful at it.
Why is the Indiana Project different from just all the other online study programs and other programs that these kids could go through?
Dude, that's a great question. My current job, I'm senior vice president at a wonderful firm called Blaylock Van. I've been in this business a long time. My role at Blaylock Van is we solve very complex financial issues for corporations and municipalities, right? And I've been doing that for some time. So through my network of clients or colleagues, this is what makes the Indiana Project different. We meet every Saturday here in Indianapolis, and the first hour, we start at 10:30 on Saturday morning. First, from 10:30 to 11:30, we teach to the test. We teach the students in the cohort how to pass that exam. Then we take a break. After that, Keegan, I have a wonderful portfolio of mentors. It could be the treasurer of IU, an employee at Lilly or Cummins or another pension fund. It could be from someone from NPERS. It could be an asset manager. It could be a broker or another banker. What I'm doing is these guys are the guest speaker for the afternoon, and it gives the kids the ability to hear from industry experts, right? Mm-hmm. From in an area typically that they may not have even heard of. So that's what makes us different. We teach to the test, and then we have current industry experts. If they're in Indianapolis, they'll come to the classroom at IU. If they're out of state, we'll bring them on via Zoom, and the kids get to interact with those industry professionals, ask them questions. The professionals can tell them their story, and that's what makes us a little different.
And then going back to that first class, when you guys, don't have the backbone or the experience of teaching students, what were the biggest challenges in recruiting those first students?
Wow.
And what were some of the difficulties that came with the first to launch something like this?
Well, as with anything being new, it's new. There's no track record, so there's nothing for us to pull data from to tell, potential cohort members that this is going to be the deal. It was difficult initially, but because of my relationship, right, at IU, I'm an IU grad. I received a wonderful leadership award from IU a couple of years ago. I have wonderful friends at Indiana University. Just wonderful friends, too many to mention. So, there again, you utilize your network. You let your network know that you want to help kids. You want to help kids into a field where there was predominantly a small representation from marginalized that demographic, right? So you involve people that share your mission or your views, and it works. That's how we do it.
Mm-hmm. And then for the Indiana Project in that first kind of group, what was the first breakthrough or success story that made you feel confident?
I tell you, Keegan, there is what really brings me joy, man, is, you get through the first cohort and, we have about a 99% pass rate of the kids that go through the Indiana Project. So it's a really successful pass rate. But one of the greatest joys that I get, I talk to these kids. I talk to at least one kid or two kids every other day or so. And now it's about things they're sharing their first home purchase, right? So, man, that's beautiful. One of the kids in cohort 1, he bought a Tesla. I'm not a Tesla fan. But so you get to celebrate these minor victories. And one other thing that we're so proud of, and it was like a secondary benefit, is these kids that come through the project are getting wonderful jobs, but they also have learned how to manage money, right? Mm-hmm. So a secondary benefit is these kids that go through the project, they'll buy a home, they'll invest in their 401k, they'll get married, they'll have kids. So you're almost eliminating that generational curse of poverty, and also gets to attack financial illiteracy, right? So all these things are secondary benefits of what we're doing at the Indiana Project. By helping these kids get wonderful jobs, they can invest in their communities, they can buy a home, they can be married, they can raise kids, those kids can go to college. So it's a wonderful cycle that you begin to create by educating kids about financial services.
With the third cohort about to go live, you're bringing in high school students for the very first time.
Right.
What inspired that decision? And then what's the benefit to them starting that cycle that you just talked about
Correct.
early rather than in college later?
No, well, FINRA created the SIE in 2018, to really introduce financial services to a demographic that ordinarily would not see it. So the only requirement as far as age that FINRA has is you must be 18 to take the exam. Well, one of the issues that my board chair and I, Steve Jones, ran across was we wished we could get to the kids earlier. So we remembered, primarily I remembered, I forgot that you only have to be 18 to take it. So what we're going to do in cohort 3 is we're going to start working with students that are 17 years of age and primarily work with them a year till they're 18 so they can take the SIE. And there again, the kids will come from relationships that we've had. You heard me mention Steve Jones. Steve Jones is my board chair. He also works with the Mind Trust, a wonderful charter school organization. I do work with Indianapolis Public, so we know we'll get kids from the Mind Trust. Thank you to Steve Jones and Shannon, Dr. Jones and Weston at IPS, and we're talking to other school districts. We have school districts in Ohio that will also be working with us regarding the younger kids. Now, what that will look like, Keegan, you take a 17-year-old person and you teach them Wall Street basics first. I can't dump the SIE on them initially. It's like you have to kind of work them into that process. But they will, once they take the SIE, they will go into college with that certificate. Now, when you go into college with that certificate, what it does is it makes you, you have the ability to get wonderful internships at some of the same financial institutions that the cohorts have been getting jobs. We have kids that have gone to work for Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, BMO, Bank of America, Schwab, just about all of them now we have Indiana Project student working at. So there again, that's the benefit of working with an organization or being selected, to work with an organization like the Indiana Project. We have a tremendous network. And it's not just me. I couldn't do this by myself. I worry the crap out of my friends about helping me, and they have pretty much have the same vision as far as assisting this demographic. And what you'll find, Keegan, when you talk to me next year or 3 years, whenever it is, I told Steve and some other people there will be some kids coming out of this first cohort that is 17 years old that you will be reading about in some wonderful way 5 or 6 years from now after they graduate from college, working at some wonderful Wall Street firms.
So you're saying the benefit for the students to start in high school is that you come into college with the certificate so
Correct.
you can start landing those exams.
Those internships
Yes.
right now, that's absolutely
Because
correct.
in my mind, convincing a high school student saying, hey, we're going to take a year and we're going to train you for this test doesn't sound.
That's tough. And it's not, we had a board meeting, I don't know, about a week ago. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a tough exam, and it's quite the commitment. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you just it's a sacrifice, and it's not for everybody. These jobs are high-paying jobs, and I think there are certain students, even in high school, that are serious enough and have the intellect and commitment to sit in the classroom knowing that it's going to benefit them a year from now, or actually Keegan the rest of their lives.
And then outside of the technical skills that you guys teach, bringing in the guest and navigating the industry, what's the biggest lesson you're trying to instill in your students, both in the high school and college?
Well, I tell you, one of the warmest feelings I got is when students from cohort 1 or cohort 2 want to come back and give back. My dad was a pastor, a pretty cool pastor, and my mother worked at the Indianapolis Urban League. So I come from a service, if you will, background. My father's a pastor. Dr. Girton was a pastor. My mom, Laura Girton, worked at the Urban League. We come from service. And I think, the older I get, Keegan, my giving back to these kids is serving them. I'm serving the community by teaching these kids, and we pay for everything, by teaching these kids what I'm teaching them. So, what I love to see, just innately, these kids are, because I poured into them, if you will, they're now, actually, one will be a teacher for this cohort, Joey Wilson. He was in cohort 2. I've had Willie Gupton's coming back. Tahid is coming back. So all these, they get it. They see the importance of how the Indiana Project poured into them, and how it made a difference. And I didn't have to tell them or coerce them. They want to help. So that's something that I love, actually.
Just instilling, giving back.
Giving back.
Yeah. And then those lessons that they build in that cohorts are very strong, but the professional world that they're still entering is extremely competitive.
Very true.
How can a student stand out when they're trying to land an internship at JP Morgan and Charles Schwab and other top firms?
I think, first of all, you have to have the SIE. This shows initiative. This is something that you can do on your own. So another thing that gave my guys a leg up, I was talking to them throughout the interviewing process, and they'll just tell you straight up, had I not had this, I would not have got the job. That's why I beat the competition, is we had the certificate already. So I think that made a world of difference.
What are some other things they can do to stand out?
I think, we did a couple of networking events throughout the cohort. Remember, this was our first cohort 3 years ago, and we just met, and I really appreciate you for finding me on LinkedIn. But I like to have fun. So we did social things like at Top Golf, or we went to restaurants. I want the students in the cohort to be very well-rounded. This cohort, we will visit publicly traded companies, maybe Eli Lilly, Cummins, or Simon. I want them to see these guys in their environment. We'll visit NPERS, our state's largest pension fund. So I want them to see, taste, and touch people that are actually doing some of the jobs that they want to do. And I think when you're comfortable in that environment, right? When you've experienced that environment, more than once, I think you'll have a chance of being more successful.
So say there is a freshman college student or even sophomore who wants to get in this field, who may not live in Indiana, so they don't have access to the Indiana Project and visiting these top firms. What are the steps you would take to further the success in your career?
Well, look, we are, all you got to do really is, first of all, you can ask, I'm available on LinkedIn, right? Call and ask me anything. But I would encourage those that are out of state, try to find a good course of study for the SIE, because that's critical. And talk to investment firms, man. I mean, talk to investment professionals. Blaylock Van is very open to answering questions. Our president and chairman and CEO, we just had a wonderful season of 4 interns in our offices. So that's just us. And there are many firms like us. Find a good firm to attach yourself with and kind of go for it.
Gotcha. And then that's the strategy for breaking into the industry. But now let's talk about what success really means once you're there. And you've built a career at the highest levels of banking and launched a program that's changing lives. If we set aside the titles, the awards, the company names, how do you define your success for yourself today? And if you could go back, what's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Keegan, that's a good question, man. So really, that's a good one. I think man, you caught me off guard. I think you really did. I think what's allowed me to sustain myself in this business is I create very strong relationships. I told you earlier that my father was a pastor and my mother worked at the Urban League she retired from the Urban League. I believe in relationships. I believe there are many firms, there are many companies that can do what we do, right? but I think relationships matter. I think being involved in your community matters, right? For example, I grew up in this community, right? I went to school number 70 at 46th and Central. I went to school 59 at Kessler and Keystone, then on to Shortridge, then on to IU. Those are all Indianapolis public schools, right? Then I come back to Indianapolis. I get elected to the IPS school board. Then IPS becomes a client. Then they put me in the IPS Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool. That's a relationship, right? So I think, for example, I look out my office window, I see Eli Lilly, I see Simon, I see Cummins. You involve yourself in that community, right? Then they see you helping kids. I think that's the way you really create a relationship with these institutions. You have to be here. You have to give back, and I think that makes a critical difference. Now, all our firm, you have to be capable. That goes without saying, right? But the value add is all that other stuff that I've been able to bring to the table.
Would you do anything differently at IU, if you could?
You know, I was a music student. I got to IU, Keegan.
It's a big transition.
Yeah, I did. Right. Yeah, I went to IU to play. I was a jazz drummer, and I flunked out of IU, but I ended up graduating with an economics degree. So there again, my plan, Keegan, was to be playing in a symphony or some jazz club, right? But I think there again, because of my background, I mean, the Lord saw different. I told my dad's a pastor, my mother worked at the Urban League. So I do believe certain things. I think the Lord saw different. And that's how I ended up in this business. And I'm able to help people. We're able to help companies. Companies serve communities. People serve communities. So just in service, man, that's what I want to do.
Going back to that music degree, and then you went to economics. If a student is in a major right now and they're uncertain of their path going forward, what advice would you give to them?
I mean, be open. I mean, I think students should be open. There again, I didn't know I would be here. I think Wall Street, you know, is filled with people who are not business or finance majors. So the best guys I know weren't business majors. So I don't want them to limit themselves just because they're studying something now, right? That they think traditionally would not align them in financial services. No, be open to it and explore it, and you may be surprised.
And then to close off, these are just a couple rapid fire questions. So what is one leadership lesson that took you too long to learn?
Oh, giving back.
Giving back. One book or resource that you think every student should read before graduation?
Oh man, there are a couple. And I used to love a book, you know, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?
Gotcha. A quality in today's students that make you optimistic about the future of the industry?
Smart.
One piece of career advice you'd put on a billboard for every student to see?
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. Mr. Girton, thank you for your time.
Keegan, you the man.